eight, 9, 8 years, I think, 8.5 maybe. Um, and yeah, I also have a YouTube channel where I help uh, young designers and people that want to get into the industry to learn and to grow and do just that. Um, I worked for Charles Deenan for about 6 years as his kind of right-hand man, and then the last couple of years I've been on a unreleased AAA game project, basically heading up all the sound design for that. So yeah, that's kind of the short version. But oh, I mean, it's probably similar to many people. I was into music as a teenager, and started, I was a musician and all those things, and then I learned about recording engineering and really enjoyed the technical side of that. Um, I started interning at studios, and one thing led to another, and I helped out on some film projects, learned film post, and always being a gamer, I then naturally gravitated toward game sound design and worked my way up practicing at home to then get in with Charles, and the rest is kind of history. Yes, they weren't particularly good, but I had to start somewhere, and I couldn't think of what else to do. So yeah, I had a short little reel I made, and yeah, that was some of the first stuff I ever did. Yes, I have. It's similar advice that I usually give people when I'm asked this question, and the way I see it, if I had to go back and do it over again, I would do it slightly differently, and especially in today's world with there's a lot more resources on YouTube and online schools and things like that that did not exist at all 10 years ago. So I would say learn as much as you can online. You don't need to go to school for this. You can if you want to. If that's how your brain learns the best, then, go to school. There's no shame in that. But if you think that you can learn on your own at home, save the money and spend that money you would spend on going to school to get yourself the gear you need, because it is an investment, and it is, there are budget ways to get started, but to really compete, you do need, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of gear. It's not insane, but I would put aside, 5 grand over a period of time and stock up on, a good computer, plugins, sound libraries. Um, and obviously that number can go as high as you want because there's plenty of products to buy, but there are a few essentials that I talk about, and they'll get you kind of started on the right foot. But yeah, sadly, it's not cheap to get set up. But once you do, it's much cheaper than most schools cost, and yeah, and then you can practice at home by essentially not doing redesigns off the bat. I wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend doing recreations first. So I'd find your favorite sound effect from a film or a game, and or even your favorite designed sound from a library. True, like Boom Library has all their sounds separated into construction kit and designed sounds that they've made from the construction kit elements. So what's kind of a fun thing to do is listen to one of their design sounds and pick which one intrigues you the most, and the one that you think is the most impressive, and try to recreate it with the construction kit elements, just like the people at Boom did. So I'd start doing that and trying to A/B between either if you go the library route and trying to recreate one of those, or if you're just trying to recreate a sound effect from a game or a movie or a TV show. Try to get it as close as humanly possible, to where if you switch back and forth, there's very, very little difference. And it might sound impossible, and it's because it kind of is. It really is. But if you get close at all, or even if you don't, you're still going to learn so much just from trying to get there and from intently listening to what you're trying to recreate, and practicing, making your low end sound similar, practicing getting the same clarity that the high end has, or the movement it has, or a punchy mid range thing that then ducks down. How do you achieve that in the way they do? There's all these things that you'll have to critically think about making and try to actively recreate. And I think it's a lot more strength building than just having kind of fun on a redesign, because redesigns are a lot easier and they're more fun, and it feels more like, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm doing the thing. But if you're starting out, I wouldn't recommend. I know there's, sure, do it once in a while to reward yourself, but doing recreations is really going to be, it's the difference between like doing 20 push-ups a day versus going to the gym for 2 hours. You're going to see a lot more results, and you're going to build those muscles, um, with your listening, and just with your understanding of processing and how sounds layer together. um, so yeah, that's what I would recommend for people to just getting started wanting to get into sound design. It really varies. I mean, I'm not sure what most people here are interested in. You might know from them being your community, but is it mostly game sound design people, or is it a mix, or is it mostly film, or okay, well, perfect. So with games, the interview process, yeah, it'll vary from company to company. I mean, the bigger the company, the more rigid it'll be, right? Because they need systems in place to maintain consistency, and they can't be as loose with that stuff. So bigger companies will more often than not, you know, pay more attention to your resume, um, and have, it's more about, do they fit our company culture at that point. And smaller companies have those kinds of conversations too. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize, I think, is that two things. Big companies are often split up a lot internally, and they have little companies nested within them. For example, like Activision has its own internal marketing team that's quite small, the audio team part of that, and they're working on the like Call of Duty mobile app, mobile ads that you see on Instagram or whatever, and they're gonna interview slightly differently than like Activision, main Activision will. Or I can't think of other examples, but you get what I'm saying. There's these companies often have small LLC type companies within them, and it might be easier getting into those types of positions rather than just going to Activision's main website and clicking careers, and then clicking on sound designer. It may work, but it may not. Another thing to know is there's a lot and a lot of third party companies, that are, with games especially. There's a lot of what's called codev going on right now, which is, companies are really looking for, especially for audio, for third party companies they can outsource the work to, and therefore have less strings attached. They don't have it makes more sense to them a lot of the time, because they don't have to bring people in for payroll. They don't have to get them on health insurance or give them stock or whatever. So they're really excited about finding talented third party companies that they can collaborate with, and it's a really clear kind of business relationship there. Um, and so if you're not sure where to start, it could be a cool type of place to work, because you'll get a big variety of stuff usually, because you'll get little, batches of assets from different companies. You might do some like Call of Duty stuff one day, or you might do some like other spaceship game another day, and then you might work on a trailer. It depends. Each third party company specializes in certain things. Some are doing more marketing assets, others are doing more in-game stuff. Um, some are doing all of it. So those are a couple things I would keep an eye out for, and those companies will usually be more about, does your sound design impress us? Are you a cool person? Have you committed any crimes or felonies? Yes, yes, no. Okay, you'll probably be a good fit here or something, right? I mean, they're still hard to get into them, but they're less rigid because they're usually smaller companies. They don't have these crazy big systems they need to like standardize and maintain. It's usually like, if the owner likes you, if the other people like you, and they want you on board, you'll get an offer. So, um, yeah. Um, Yeah, I'm not sure. I've done a lot of the third party stuff, but I personally don't strive for the bigger corporate stuff. I like kind of being in a a small punchy group that you can kind of avoid the politics more and the HR type stuff more and just kind of like be a bit more human and relaxed. But there's downsides to that too. So it's really just kind of like picking what type of work you like to do and then just conforming to the environment however you need to because that's just a part of it. Um, my fiance is a music director at Disney, and so I get a lot of insight into that life. And there's amazing things about working for that company, but then there's some other things that I personally probably wouldn't enjoy as much. And then vice versa, she gets to see kind of uh, my work and whatever, and how that goes. And there's differences. So I guess it's less about what I like, and it's more about what you think you would like. But more importantly than both of those things is what game do you love the sound of? And what type of style of sound design do you love? Are you in love with the platformer, more indie style? Are you in love with the open world, cartoony, fun, light? Are you in love with the dark Doom, Dark Souls type stuff? Think about that kind of thing. Practice recreating different sounds from that stuff. And then if you recreate a bunch of sounds from Dark Souls or from Doom, make a little reel and send it to the developers. Say like, "Hey, I love your game. Just made these. Like, would love to work there. Not expecting anything from this, but just wanted to say hi and show you what I did. And thanks for the game, guys, or whatever." And that's the kind of stuff that'll differentiate you and get you a job. It's not just here's my reel of six random things. And um, if you show people that you love their product and really want to be that, there with them, they'll want to invest in you and bring you in. So, not saying it'll work every time, but that's just one idea. To went on a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, Ariel, that's a good question. So it depends where you live because I have the fortunate luck of living in Los Angeles, so there's a good amount of them here, and I can just go on Google Maps and type sound design, and a bunch of pins pop up. But if you're looking for strictly remote opportunities, then you literally have the whole world, all of the English-speaking world to access. So I would look at credits of your favorite games. They'll usually list a bunch of different sound companies. They'll have their internal audio team, and then they'll be like, special thanks to Sweet Justice, special thanks to Source Sound, special thanks to, Soundworks or Noiseworks, whatever. So that's one way to do it. There are a lot. I would just try Googling and looking on LinkedIn. They'll show you similar companies at times. And Facebook does similar things as well. Sadly don't have a really good system for that. I haven't had to develop for my own, but I probably should spend some more time because I do get asked this question a good amount. The, the truth of it is just scouring LinkedIn, scouring IMDb, looking at who the people are that are working on this stuff, clicking on their name, and just going down that rabbit hole of kind of familiarizing yourself with everyone. Um, and yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. I'll get back to you if I think of something else though. But it should be doable that way. Um, yeah, I mean, working in games, I actually personally prefer doing like the bigger, more epic, dramatic stuff. Because that stuff tends to be a bit easier for me than doing like smaller, more precise uh, type things. So, for example, I'd rather, if I was working on an FPS shooter game, I would rather, or I don't know, it's hard to say because the end result is probably more rewarding getting the hard thing to work. But if I was to sit down and say, all right, I just want to have a very enjoyable time right now sound designing, I would want to work on if it was an FPS shooter war game, I'd want to work on a cutscene of a tank being blown up and then falling off a cliff. Then what is our headshot sound going to be? Right? Because even though it's a much smaller sound in theory, it has to be so precise and it's going to be heard so many times by the player. And it's going to be a huge ingredient in the sonic palette that the game is, right? But that cinematic they'll probably just see once, and you can really just kind of go, blow their pants off and have fun with it and make it really cool and interesting. But that one short little headshot sound is gonna be, it's gonna need to be just right, and it's such a short, tiny thing. You're gonna have to try a bunch of different things. That's the stuff that makes me pull my hair out because it's like you know what it needs to feel like, but it's so hard to figure out how to get there. I think Overwatch theirs is like a beer bottle uh, being opened in reverse or something like that. That's like the core element. It's like how do you think of that? It's just think of how many things they had to try before they got to that. It gets brutal. So but it's that much more rewarding when you do find it. But yeah, I just got done making some sounds kind of like that for the game I'm on now, and it's like happy that I think they're feeling okay. So yeah. Um, Good question. Some of the biggest mistakes. I think for me, what I see the most is people not paying kind of respect. I don't want to say paying respect to the original that they're recreating for, but really it's like I'll see people handing in recreations or sorry, redesigns of scenes or cinematics or in-game stuff or whatever. And I'll be like, all right, cool, we'll watch it. And it doesn't sound nearly as good as the original. And I understand that, this person's not at probably the same experience level as the person who designed the original, whatever it was. But you have such an advantage when a scene has already been cut and done well. And when you have that as your example, as your starting point, and then you hand in something that's so far below it, I understand if there's like differences in aesthetic or differences in style. There's not one way to skin it. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. You can cut a scene with very different. You could focus more on textures for this fight scene, or you can focus more on impacts, or you can make really tonal Matrix style combat. With the zippy punches and stuff. There's so many ways, and there's no right or wrong way, but there is a quality standard of does it have a pleasant full range spectrum feeling? Does it feel punchy? Is there dynamic to it? Is it muddy? Is the low end clear? There's things that are just kind of very basic that you need to be able to achieve. And when people haven't spent time to like learn how to do that, or they're showing stuff and they're like, hey, they come to me and they'll say, hey, I'm about to send this to a bunch of, game studios. What do you think? And I listen to it and it's like, dude, don't send this because it's not, it's just so far below. I don't know. It really depends where you're applying though too. If you're applying to a smaller company that's not as well known and they're kind of just looking for someone to help out, obviously the demand is going to be lower to work there because they're less esteemed as a company at this point in time. So, you might have an easier job, but if people are talking about applying to these big companies or places like Riot or you know, Sledgehammer or Interplay or Interplay they're not around anymore. I was trying to say Insomniac. But you need to kind of be able to hit a standard of quality, and they're not going to bring you someone in that they need to teach that much to. They'll teach you their tools and they'll teach you their techniques and stuff, but if your ear isn't there and you're not giving something that aesthetically sounds good and cool, then they're just going to throw it away. And then if you email them a better reel, they might not even listen to it, because that's how people are. They get tons of things sent to them. So it's not to be demoralizing, but it's just like be honest with yourself and strive for greatness. And there's a lot of other people doing this, but at the same time, the industry is very short on sound designers. Like it is a sound designers market right now. You can like if you are good and you can deliver consistent quality, There is a line of companies that want to hire you. There's not many people that are like that though. A lot of people don't spend that time. They get a job, they get comfortable there, and then they kind of learn how to do one or two things decently, and then they leave, and then they think, okay, I've been a sound designer, I can do it all. And no, there's a lot of elements to this job. It's very different cutting a UI sound to an explosion to a spacecraft whoosh to a magical chest opening. These are very different things, and it's you need a very wide range of understanding of sound and your libraries and processing and it takes a lot of practice. So hopefully that's taken as an inspiring thing because anyone can do this. Um, and if you spend that time, every hour you spend, you're just adding this multiplier of advantage that you have over other people. And that's why going back to the beginning, saying the recreation thing, it's like that's kind of how you start to break those muscles in really easily. It's like it'll just and it's hard and it's not as fun, but it is fun because when you start getting there, it's really gratifying. Just like you'd said, um cutting the big stuff, people have more fun listening to and they maybe appreciate more. But people don't they feel that headshot sound more than they feel that cinematic they watch one time, and so it's a similar thing of it when you get some. It's hard for a reason. Um, so anyway. That's again a long-winded answer, but hopefully it helps. That's a good question. I think what I've been trying to do, for the last decade or so, is just be a really active listener and kind of carry a bit of a burden on myself anytime I'm watching or playing something, to really kind of be an active listener and try to keep a consumer perspective and an average player who's not a sound person perspective as well, because that's just as important. But um, with that on, kind of feeling how things make me feel while I'm playing them or watching them, and then kind of rewinding or switching hats really quickly internally and just being like, wow, how did they make that then? Why did they do it that way? Oh, because it made me feel this way. Why did they want that effect? That's interesting. And then just little by little, every day having little aha moments, you start to just kind of get an overall understanding. And it's something you'll never master, right? I mean, it's such an open-ended, subjective thing that you'll always be a student. But uh, that's the psychological part is definitely understanding how other things have been done. Um, I I actually get a bit peeved when people come and they're very new and they're sending their first reel or their first redesign, and it's like just so different than the previous. Like it's just not, and it's not in a good way usually because it's their first time, but it's like there's a cockiness that some people have where they think, I don't need to pay attention to you know history with this. I'm going to come in and just put my own spin on it and it's going to be great. And it's like this kind of, anything I do is gold kind of a feeling, and it's like, well, yeah, that's a good charisma to have and confidence to have, but it's going to hurt when you start working somewhere and people tell you to redo something you spent 4 hours on. um, Start from scratch. That won't often happen, but sometimes it will, and people need to be able to. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is understanding. We have history, and we have a lot of people that have worked and done great things in this field, and so studying those films, studying those games, um, and kind of listening intently, watching any audio behind the scenes stuff or any interviews with the sound designers or the mixers or whoever in question. um, just kind of really filling your head with that, because before you can change the rules or change the style, you need to be able to achieve that. You do need to get to that level, and then it's like, okay, it's like being a great painter. It's like you can't pick up a paintbrush one day and say, I'm going to make a new genre of art. You can, sure, and some people might care, but I really believe like there's a discipline and an understanding of the medium of sound, and it takes many years to develop your ears to really be able to listen intently and not get tunnel hearing quickly and not get fooled by your room or by your understanding your speakers or your headphones, whatever you're using. And so just I don't even remember what the question was at this point. I'm just going, but just appreciate that stuff. And it doesn't mean you have to worship people in the past and copy them, but it does mean like things have been done for a reason in certain ways, and directors or game producers have wanted things to sound a certain way for a certain reason, and just have an understanding and appreciation of that. And then you can take that in your bag of tricks and knowledge to whatever challenges you face in your career or projects or whatever. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of happened. I'd left my job that I'd been at for 6.5, 7 years in the middle of 2020, and I was just at home and freelancing a bit, and I had like a week where I didn't have anything to do, so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make some YouTube videos, I guess, because it's something I'd wanted to do, and I've very much slowed down on it now that this game project has been picking up, and it sucks because I wanted to keep doing those consistently and be in the Discord consistently. I haven't sadly been as present in there in the last couple weeks, but there are a lot of people in there talking, um, and I have everything categorized. Your role is based on kind of your real life position, just to provide clarity when people are giving feedback and stuff. If it's a beginner giving you feedback or a supervising sound designer or anywhere in between. Um, Not to make it a caste system of any sort, but just so there's clarity, so you know how to contextualize the feedback. But yeah, I don't know. It just got really gratifying helping people, and people started reaching out and saying, they were just in the middle of changing to this as a career, and they're 35, they're 40, and they were scared, but this advice was like super helpful to them or whatever. Just lots of little bits like that, and yeah, and that kind of just made me want to keep doing it. Um, I relate. I didn't have money for college, so I couldn't go, and so I had to figure it out. And I didn't, I took a path that added probably 5 years to my career of just having to get my butt kicked at a studio. And it was good, and I learned a lot. But I want to help people shortcut that a bit, and maybe not have to get as many calluses as I did, and those can serve you as well. Calluses are good to have, but time is better. I would rather choose the shorter way to get to the same place I am today. So yeah, and people don't talk about that much. It's usually like join my course or join my online school, or and I felt like I was at a point in my career. I had some titles under my name, and I could have some credibility. People would know you know that I'm not just doing this as my full-time thing. I'm actually doing sound design and supervising sound design on a daily basis for my full-time job. And so anyway, I saw a lack of that on YouTube, and it was a bit of a gap, so that's why I started that. Yeah, I mean, the things that you can take, I'm assuming music production and mixing, right? Um, I would, yeah, okay. So I mean, being able to drive a DAW, quickly and easily and effortlessly is super important, right? Because you don't want your tools holding back your kind of stream of consciousness. A lot of it is listening and reacting quickly and being able to make adjustments quickly. So if you need to throw an EQ on something, if you need to pitch something, stretch something, get a new sound in entirely, whatever, doing that as quickly as possible, it will always benefit you with the least amount of mental strain, right? So if you get an idea and then you have to stop and think, oh, how do I pitch again, or how do I edit this the way I want to, that's just going to really hold you back. So if you have good chops in whatever DAW you use, if it's Pro Tools or Reaper or whatever, then that'll be a huge benefit. Mixing skills, music and sound design are similar, but they're also different in their own ways. it's kind of hard to compare the two. You know, music has a lot more of a constant quality about it, where it's like when music is playing, it's kind of playing, where sound design kind of bobs and weaves a bit. um, Especially for games, it's so I mean, yes, it's good to know how to make a snare read in a mix. Just like it'll be good to know how to craft a gunshot or an explosion or any other transient, sound effect readout in a game's dynamic mix. But there are many you know unique uh, points and things to know for each medium. So it's kind of hard to say specifically, but yeah, Reaper. So Reaper is probably the most common sound design uh, DAW now that I'm seeing. I don't use it. I'm still stuck in Pro Tools, but yeah. So Reaper, if you're trying to do sound design stuff, I think it can actually link with Wise, the middleware, WWise, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with Reaper, and it's I think it's a lot more stable than Pro Tools can be as well. So yeah, you're off to a good start then. If you're comfortable in Reaper, it'll be a lot easier to get started than someone who isn't. Um, General music skills, it's some knowledge of synths can help as well. But I wouldn't get too caught up with trying to translate all of your music skills into sound design. Use them when you can, but I wouldn't be too. Be prepared to learn new things, and to develop new strengths. Because I do see people come in and they just like love doing synth-based music, and then they want to do the same thing with their sound design, and it's like, look, unless you're working on Tron, you're probably not going to be using all synths, for your sound design. I personally like very rarely use synths, and so that's one example of just kind of be prepared to learn some new things. But yes, your DAW skills, your ear, being able to actively listen and understand, something that sounds like it's has a full frequency spectrum and not it sounds wide banded and nice. Um, that's good, and that'll always help you with audio. So how I approach compression. Um, so compression for me is it's interesting. So it's a super useful tool, right? I almost never use compressor plugins. I'll use limiting plugins usually, and because they'll achieve a very, very similar effect. So usually when I'm getting my source together for whatever I'm trying to work on, I'll go into SoundMiner, which is a database program that has all my libraries and it has a big processing rack, and I can take single elements and basically process them how I want and just shoot them into my DAW into Pro Tools. And then once I gather all them in there, I'll work with them in Pro Tools, layer them together, edit them, go back to SoundMiner if I need something different, and it kind of ping pong between those two apps like that. So there's the compression that's done on the individual layers. I have an L2 from Waves at the bottom of that rack usually, or an L3 multi, whatever, if I want more of like a analog sound. Um, and then in Pro Tools, I have a really high CPU limiter called Newfangled Elevate that's on just my master. And that's just usually to protect from peaks. And it's like a threshold of like -2 or something. It's just boosting it a tiny bit, but not doing much. That limiter is really good. And it adds a lot of character and punchiness. Um, so the way I look at compression usually is, you know, with this sound, it needs to not feel squashed, right? Um, but it needs to also be audible and have some body to it. It can't just be transient spikes to then nothingness. Very similar to music, right? So overall, it's a feel thing, right? If you start hearing clipping or distortion, obviously you want to back things off. But uh, yeah, it's really just about turning your volume up and down, listening to it very quietly and then very loudly. And when you listen to it very quietly, you should be able to kind of hear the majority of your sound, or be okay with the parts you do hear. Shouldn't just be, click, click if it's a gun cock. You should hear some of the movement in the metal ring or whatever. Um, and then if you turn it up all the way, it shouldn't stab your ears out. It should be compressed to a point where the transients aren't, too strong. And the whole thing kind of feels, louder, but not painful. And compression's a big part of that balance. So that's what I would say is, my rule of thumb is I'm usually not squashing things single layer wise more than, -10 of gain reduction. But I mean, it varies. If I'm working on a crazy trailer where it's like a Doom style trailer and he has a big gun and he's got, yeah, maybe there's some crazy squashed metal shit in there. Who knows? And then for my master, it's usually like for in-game assets, I'm not doing more than like -6 of gain reduction from that one. Usually not touching it at all, especially if it's an in-game asset. If it's a cinematic scripted thing, maybe more, but you don't want things in game to be too, it's a competitive multiplayer game, so it can't be too muddy in that sense. It needs to kind of just happen and then get out of the way, so it can't be too compressed. Anyway, that's my long-winded thing about compression. Um, I'm assuming this is from like a beginner perspective, like you got like $600. What plugin should you get? So I'll answer it that way and tell me if it's not the way that you wanted it answered. But I would say probably something like, it's hard to say. I mean, Altiverb is the first thing I thought of. That is just, such a great reverb. I also really love, huh? Yeah, the newfangled stuff, I don't even know if it's that expensive. I forget how much a lot of this stuff costs now. I would say probably like an isotope bundle or Altiverb. That would be my gut reaction, just because having a good verb is really important. But even just a light touch of a really good verb can help. Kind of glue a sound together. Yeah, I don't know how much these things cost because it's been a while since I bought the ones that I use every day, because I use them every day, right? So I would look at GRM stuff as well. It's this French company, and they make it's GRM tools, and they make some really cool like sound designy spectral stuff that, when I think sound design plugins, I think of their plugins. And you can ping me if you have questions about specific ones, but that's just what comes to mind. Yeah, good verb. Also, I would think about libraries too. Um, like I would actually, like if you had nothing and you had $1,000, like I'd probably just get a Kilohertz subscription for like $10 a month, uh, and then I would spend the rest on like a Boom Basics library, or and that's going to be like, I think a couple, like I don't even know how much it costs. I think it's like $500 or something. Let me look it up actually. Why not? Boom Basics. Yeah, okay, so it's $250. It looks like. So that's, I would get that and then maybe a couple others, and just try to practice with that. Oh, you're East Coast then, nice. Um, I, so I rely a lot on recorded sounds that are in libraries. If that answers your question, because I don't have much of recording set up myself. I have like a handheld recorder, and that's about it. When I'm in a pinch, if I need to do some voice stuff or some random prop thing that I can't find in my libraries. But I just have so many libraries that I've accrued from working at these several companies, and it just, you don't really need to record stuff as much, because you'll have 50 versions of that recorded in your library, and they're recorded quite well. Um, and all the time it takes and energy to go and set up and record. If recording something you're passionate about, then I would say do it, because it's always in need. And there's a whole field recording Slack channel actually that's quite a good resource as well, with a lot of people always talking about different mics and different setups and sharing recordings with each other and DIY stuff, all that. Um, But yeah, I mean, a lot of it, and that's another kind of reason I started the YouTube channel as well, is I saw a lot of people kind of teaching others how to like record a sound and then turn it into a sound effect with like a very poor result. And if people are teaching that and it actually has a really good result that could compete with like well-recorded library material, then I'm all for it. But at the end of the day, if you're working on a game and you want it to sound as good as possible, most players aren't going to know the difference. They're just going to know it doesn't sound as good. So obviously you want to be ethical with what you use and try to be as unique as possible. But at the end of the day, you have to also be humble enough to say like, hey, if this pre-designed library sounds better than what I was able to make, then I should go with that sound because it'll serve the game better. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially like for me, especially. I will spend a long time trying to make a better sound than that library sound, so I don't have to take that pill. Anyway, long story short, I would if I had money and I was either going to invest in recording gear or in libraries, I would invest in libraries all day long. Especially stuff from Boom, Soundmorph, uh, uh, Mattia Gelato or whatever Matthias, I forget his name, but he makes like amazing stuff. His Metamorphosis library is just like I've been overusing that guiltily. But there's some really great stuff out there, and yeah. But if you're more passionate about recording, do that. And hey, maybe you can make libraries too, and there's a form of passive income. Yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't. But uh, you know, it's it's hard to say because I haven't worked in-house at a large company like that. I haven't gone through that process. I do work with those people though, and it's what I would say is every company and situation is different, every person's different, and don't be afraid to go for it. The worst thing they can say is no, especially if your real is good and it's high quality. I would say, look, I haven't been working at companies, but I've been practicing at home for many years for my love of this, and I love your games, and all I want to do is work at your company. This is what I can do. Please let me know if you could see any spot for me. I'm willing to just learn as much as possible. But, this is that, if you just want to get in at that point, that's the approach I would take. Um, you know, uh, you can also work on some things on the side. You can do indie things or smaller companies that are doing more long-term projects on the side if you want, just to be technically in the industry and be accruing years. Um, but honestly, what I would do, like if I was a, you know, yeah, let's say I really wanted to work at Blizzard, right? And I loved Hearthstone. That was my favorite game, and I loved the sounds of Hearthstone, the card game. And I didn't have much experience, and I look at their job, their careers page on the website, and the sound designer position needs 3 to 4 years experience minimum and college degree, and I don't have any of that. I would probably sit in my room, take a capture of a game of Hearthstone, and recreate every damn sound that happens as close as possible to the real game and send them that and just say, yeah, I love your game. I just, wasn't sure what reel to make, so I just wanted to show you me trying to recreate every sound you have, and then, or maybe um, create your own hypothetical expansion pack because they come out with different, I'm not really familiar with Hearthstone, but I know like, let's use another example like League of Legends. Let's say there's a champion that you love playing and you recreate all their ability sounds. Maybe then also make a version of those sounds for a new skin that doesn't exist yet, right? So let's say you're playing, I don't know, like Scion, and then there's some, you know, uh, gothic dark Scion or something that doesn't exist, and you want to make a version of all Scion sounds after you make the vanilla ones. You can maybe make those as I see, like, look, I made all these little kits for Scion. Doing that stuff is it's just so far above and beyond what most people do, and it shows such a love and a commitment to them specifically. They don't just feel like one out of 12 companies you shopped your reel around to. You know, they know that you made this for them and that you're already doing similar work that they would have you do at home for free. So imagine, so that those are the kind of ways to kind of get people's heads to turn a little bit and to be seen more. It takes more work, and you need to be intentional. It still needs to be really good quality. It's a lot harder than just doing some cool redesigns and shipping it around. But if that's not working, then I would try doing something like that, or just I know a guy that got hired at Bethesda back in the day because he did a mod for Skyrim where he replaced every in-game sound, and it actually sounded a bit better. And so they're like, "Hey, come work for us." So companies want people that are committed to them, that love their product, and that they can invest in. And so you can show them that you are that person by doing those types of things. It's very valuable. Oh yeah, I actually don't play League, but I do a lot of work with Riot, so I've been conformed a little bit. What are some of your biggest mistakes as you first started? Biggest mistakes. Oh man, I don't know where to start. I mean, I I fucked up a lot. I was like, yeah, I was thrown into the deep end for sure, and I didn't know how to swim. And so yeah, I did things that lost us clients. I messed up exports badly because I was doing like assistant type work. We were doing like the Star Citizen ads at that point for like the freelancer ship or whatever, and it was like I had messed up, I think, something that caused the mixer to have to wait too long, and then we were late on our delivery, and they were just like, "All right, we're done," or something. There were so many things. I sent assets to the wrong people at time. There was a. What's funny is actually I work with a guy named Adam Boyd right now, who's a super awesome sound designer, and he's a owner of this company Rebound, Rebound Sound, which is where I'm currently employed. And him and I go back a bit because he used to work with my last company a little bit as a contractor. Anyway, I had these assets for a Battlefield trailer, and I was told to email them to Boyd. And so I'm like, okay, I recognize that name. Sure, sure. It was a late night. I'd been there for like 12 hours, and so I emailed them to Adam Boyd. And everyone was CC'd on the email, like the ad agency, the EA people, and one of them just like emails me back the whole chain. He's like, Braden, we're a little concerned because you just emailed our trailer, our unreleased assets and trailer to Adam Boyd at Activision, because that's where he'd worked at that time, which is, as you know, who makes Call of Duty, who's the direct competitor of EA with Battlefield. And and it was just like, oh, my stomach just dropped. And because they wanted me to send it to a place called Boyd Post, which was a post company, I guess, that was doing some finishing or whatever. But I had sent it to Adam Boyd at Activision. So I felt like a complete, as you guys might say, nonce. And I was just on the phone apologizing to people. I remember I was so flustered. I actually like was on the phone with the creative director of the ad agency, like apologizing. I accidentally called him the wrong name. I was like, all right, thanks. All right, I'll see you later, Matt. I mean, Mike. Bye." I'm just like, I was just totally fucked up and scrambling. It all worked out. Adam's a cool guy. He saw the assets. He's like, I figured I wasn't supposed to have these. Don't worry, I didn't open it. And things carried on. And 4 years later, he hired me. So it worked out. But yeah, don't be too hard on yourself. Everyone fucks up. No one's born knowing how to do this shit. Everyone has imposter syndrome. Everyone feels like they're faking it to an extent. Uh, it's a creative art form. It's hard to. There's no objective way to say I'm good at this, or at least it's very hard to. So just be nice to yourself, but be honest, and always strive to be better and continue being a student. Is the lesson there? I would say. Yes, every mistake has a purpose. True. For games and stuff, I would just say know what you like and know what you don't like, and try to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. And those are things that are sometimes hard to know without exposure or much exposure, but try to at least be honest with yourself about uh, you know what you enjoy doing. And if you find yourself in a place that you aren't happy, um, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It just means maybe you're at the wrong place, or maybe you're doing the wrong thing. um, there's tons of different companies and places to work, and each of them have very unique experiences and material to create. So you know, I found myself in a place where I was very unsatisfied, and wanted to quit sound design for a while because I was doing trailers and stuff like that. And I was getting my butt kicked while doing it because I was working with some of the best people in the world, and I was like 3, 4 years in, was all right, but I wasn't near their level. So I almost quit a few times, and then finally 2020 came, and I left and became freelance and got this new job, and it was like holy shit, I fell back in love with it. Um, so that's what I would say. Besides all the practical how to like do recreations and all that stuff I've already gone over. Just as like more of a mental spiritual thing, it's like just you know understand why you're getting into this industry and try to keep that in focus a bit. And you know the only debt you owe is to yourself, to make yourself happy. And you know just be honest with yourself at all times. That's what I would probably say. It's rather vague, but still good.